It is a Purple Friday inside the vault for a Ravens lunch hour live stream, the 11th of October, as we enter week 6 of this NFL regular season. I'm Bobby Trossett, as always, joined alongside my co-host and partner, Sarah Ellison. Today's live stream is a jammed one. It is brought to you by our friends at Manta Sleep. And how about just this fresh off the timeline from Jeff Zaribek? Why don't we start this off with some good news? The only two Ravens that he does not see on the practice field at this current moment, Malik Harrison with a groin, Broderick Washington with a knee. They've missed practice all week, those two players, so it looks like they are trending towards being out. But the big picture is that onslaught, that mountain of names on the injury report Wednesday and Thursday look to be out there, and they look to be in good health shape entering this DMV battle. Ravens, Commanders, Sunday afternoon.
That's certainly good news. We'll get into injury reports later on. There's some guys that we want to look at from both sides that could be game time decisions. But first, Bobby, lot of chatter going on. A lot of people talking about this Ravens Commanders showdown. And I feel like, a lot of it has been perfectly reasonable up to this point. But there's always somebody that's going to take it a little too far. So we'll take a look at that, but then also look at, Bobby, after how things got a little too far. What are some more reasonable things? What are the statements that can be made from each team as they head into this game?
On top of that, 106.7 The Fans radio personality, a friend of mine, can't wait to introduce you, is Grant Paulsen. He's going to be our Commander's perspective and our preview episode coming up at 12:30, just over 20 minutes from right now. We'll have some press conference takeaways from yesterday, AFC North, coach hot seats topics, and quick hits, of course. So without further ado, let's dive right in, because Sarah, as we know, all week long, there has been the Jayden Daniels, Lamar Jackson conversation. And enter Ryan Clark, former Pittsburgh Steeler, current ESPN analyst. The guy has like 10 different media roles. Should we just dive right in and show the clip itself?
Yeah, so basically he's doing just like what everybody else does, is comparing Lamar and Jayden Daniels, even though they say they don't like it, but this is what we do as fans. This is what we do as media. This is what you do in sports. So he was on Get Up this morning, and he was comparing the two, and within it, he kind of gives a little, he's respectful to Lamar at first, but then kind of gives a little slight.
And I think Lamar Jackson is one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen. Yeah. He's one of the greatest all-around football players that's ever played in this league. Right now, today, in 5 games, Jayden Daniels is a better passer than Lamar Jackson.
But this is what you have to recognize, and I'm sure you understand. We know that we see these young rookies, they come in, they take the league by storm. But now you have 5 games of film of how they're going to use him. So now we're going to see, can he counterpunch? Can he box left-handed?
Yeah, but also, too, though, what's the counterpunch to the perfect pass? Like, we're not just talking about this dude. And it's not just schematically, Bart.
I get
it's not the way they're using him.
I get that. But all that stuff, getting out of the pocket, you set edges, right? And in certain ways, listen, everybody.
They've been trying to set the edge on Lamar for 7 years.
Listen,
we've seen Lamar have bad performances in the playoffs against good teams. The Baltimore Ravens is an elite team that's going to apply pressure to them because they're going to make that defense have to work.
Okay, so obviously, Ryan Clark has stood up for Lamar before, and he does it a lot, and so we can't forget that. But in 5 games, Jayden Daniels is a better passer than Lamar Jackson. I'm not so sure about that. Their passing yards are about the same. Lamar has about double the passing touchdowns. We're going to get into a few clips from the QB school that shows yet another iteration of Lamar Jackson's passing game. But I guess here's the thing that's the biggest. Like, if you feel like he's a better passer, Jayden Daniels, that's fine. But then he goes on to say, as Bart Scott's trying to point out what you can do as a defense against Daniels, he says, what's the counter punch to the perfect pass? Like, what is this? Like, are we already saying in week 5 that this rookie can't be defended? Like, there's not, like, he's got perfect passing? Like, that's going to last forever? Is this Tom Brady? You know what I mean? Like, and I think the thing that probably brings more weight to this, Bobby, the idea of him it's fine to compliment Jaden Daniels. Listen, we've been complimenting him all week. I've been complimenting him since I watched him live against the Bengals. I got no problem with that. We don't need to bring down Jaden Daniels. But what's familiar about this is that Ryan Clark seems to jump on the newest shiny thing. I've had a lot of people tag me, and I think they've tagged you, to show that he did something similar with Kyler Murray before we really had a chance to know what his NFL career was going to be all about.
Kyler Murray right now was the quarterback of the Baltimore Ravens, we'd have much more confidence in them to win the Super Bowl. Period. We would. It wouldn't be a discussion. We wouldn't be sitting here talking like, you know what? Yeah, they can because the quarterback's really good, because the team's really good, and everybody loves the color purple. It looks good on uniforms. He wouldn't have said all that. He would have been like, if Kyler Murray's the quarterback of this team, I see them in the AFC Championship going toe-to-toe, head-to-head with the Kansas City Chiefs because he does add that extra dimension. And this is not...
Okay, I mean... So he had already done that with Kyler Murray, Bobby. It's the next shiny thing, and it's recency bias where it's fine, compliment Kyler. But at that point, he was saying, well, if Kyler had the organization that Lamar had, he would have gone to the Super Bowl. And so now here we are again. We're 5 games into Jaden Daniels' phenomenal start, but now we're already declaring him a better passer. And that there's no counterpunch to a perfect pass. It just seems like he's jumping the gun a bit for me.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think he's jumping the gun. He's done it before, as you just alluded to there, referring to 2020 Kyler Murray. 2020 Kyler Murray, it's been a long time. He's had several injuries since then. 2020 Kyler Murray is a thing of the past, even though Arizona, perhaps a force to be reckoned with this year in the NFC. There's still a lot to be said there. Here's what I'm comfortable saying. I'm comfortable saying that based on what I've seen of Jaden Daniels through 5 weeks, he is a more refined passer than rookie QB Lamar Jackson back in 2018. I don't think that's saying anything groundbreaking. I don't think that's saying anything outlandish. And then what I'm not comfortable doing is the route that RC took because of the sample size. It's just far too premature to make a statement like what you see Kyle got at here. And if you're just tuning into the live stream, we're reacting to Ryan Clark's statement on Get Up earlier this morning. Quote, in 5 games, Jaden Daniels is a better passer than Lamar Jackson. This conversation can be had without demeaning either one of these guys. And Jaden is coming in as maybe one of the most experienced rookies that we've seen in quite a while. And he's playing like it, and he's poised. And he had a tremendous college career. You don't win a Heisman Trophy, obviously, without having an illustrious career at LSU. And so, to me, I'm comfortable saying what I said about where these two were and are in Jaden's case in their respective rookie years, but I can't jump to that conclusion simply based on sample size. And I thought Bart Scott's counter was very fair, very level-headed. We'll see. Now that tape and more tape is getting out there, and John Harbaugh's record, his track record against rookies, second to none, had a lot of success in up against those guys, including last year, Dorian Thompson-Robinson for Cleveland. If history repeats itself, then he's going to have a tough day. But guess what? Jaden hasn't had his rookie moment yet, Sarah. And I think there's a lot of people that are hopping on this bandwagon out of that excitement, out of that shiny new toy reference that you just mentioned a couple minutes ago. And that's fine. They're entitled to their opinion. Obviously, that's the way they're viewing this. I can't go there yet in this premature state that we're in right now.
Absolutely. It's kind of, it's just jumping the gun a little bit. And listen, Jaden Daniels may go on and just have a phenomenal career, but it's just this idea of being so premature with it. And here's the irony, Bobby. The irony is that we have another iteration of the QB school, right? With JT O'Sullivan. And what I love about JT's videos is that, you know, he's really analyzing at least 20 plays. These things are like 45 to 60 minutes long of just quarterback play. And when I watched it yesterday, there was the big overall theme that JT has had. And this is excellent news because when we had on Kurt Warner or when we had on Steve Young, what were they both saying Lamar Jackson's next step is as a passer? Anticipation. right? That's what we're always talking about, anticipation, especially when you have a receiver like Rashad Bateman, who's clinical when it comes to route running. So earlier in this year, JT was already noticing that Lamar was throwing with more anticipation. And now here we are at week 5, as Ryan Clark's pointing out, here we are through week 5. And he's like, JT O'Sullivan is now like, hold up. I've seen anticipation at times before, but now it's all the time. I know you have the clip, so I don't know how to cue it up exactly, but is that essentially the theme?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And like for those of you who have, it's 45 minutes worth of content. The QB school on YouTube, like you referenced. JT's a former NFL quarterback, former college quarterback, somebody who just has a tremendous mind for the game. You learn a lot while watching him. By the way, I'm just going to start it off in mute form here to remind myself when this play was. Okay, so 10 minutes, 54 seconds left in the opening quarter. 1st and 10. The Ravens are driving. They're on Cincinnati's 31. And this is a hookup between Lamar and Zay Flowers. It is a deep gain. And again, we have the audio here just because of copyright purposes, but JT breaks it down in terms of what he sees from Lamar. Listen to this.
Capacity to run it drives this offense, but his ability to throw it and throw it like this is a deep out up top. This is a play action deep out outside the numbers that we throw with anticipation. Now, that's the thing that I think when you turn on the film, that's the difference for me in the growth that I've seen in Lamar Jackson the last few years. His ability to spin it. And I mean spin it down the field with accuracy. And now we start seeing multiple examples of anticipation on film. And it should be scary across the league because he's still got the capacity to run it. But I'm going to pause this thing at the top. The ball's on the 31. This is a 20-yard route by Flowers. He goes to throw it right there. Flowers is not out of the break up top on the deep out. That's outside the numbers. Anticipation. It's a great route as well. Watch him turn the corner. So again, we talk a lot on this channel about if a corner is bailing with his rear to the sideline like this, so he's looking in, right? As he bails with his rear to the sideline, you can throw anything you want out breaking as long as you're on time. And he does a great job here of having to make the guy baseball turn out of this thing. But this is no doubt, this is big time arm talent. It's great design, big time arm talent. And he puts it right on him. I mean, it's a huge chunk play. Then the other part, again, that I talk a lot about on this channel is if the out wasn't there. So if the out wasn't there, how about the tight end over the ball? Open. So again, multiple answers, multiple good answers. Excellent execution. You have the quarterback run game. You have the run game, obviously. You have the play action game. And now you've got Lamar Jackson spreading the ball with anticipation deep outside the numbers. Lock in. Let's go.
He often gets giddy when breaking down Lamar, and you guys got to go towards the second half of this 45-minute piece of content because, of course, what do you think he breaks down that everybody wants to listen to? And I actually tweeted it. It's the Sam Hubbard stiff arm, the end zone, Isaiah Likely hookup, the botched snap. By the way, like JT covered that too. Like, how did Lamar not catch that snap? He just got caught looking elsewhere eyes wise, but yet somehow finds a way to not only recover the fumble and then also get flushed in the pocket and then also send Sam Hubbard packing. And then also while getting bared down on by Jermaine Pratt, their linebacker, fire that strike improvisation-wise to Isaiah Likely. We'll get to that in a second. But you know, moral of the story here is that this is some of the evolution here, this anticipation ability that he's certainly improved upon.
Yeah. So Bobby, I want to kind of move into a little bit this idea of like the statements that people can make, both Jaden Daniels and the Commanders, and then the Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Now, what I think is more reasonable is this clip I'm about to show from ESPN, where they're talking about the opportunity ahead for the Commanders. Okay, the opportunity and the statements that they can make if they were to come in to Baltimore, Jaden Daniels play great, and beat the Ravens in Baltimore. So here's what their opportunity statement could be.
This guy shows up and shows out against the Baltimore Ravens, even though their defense has been suspect this year. We have to start having a different conversation about just looking at Patrick Mahomes as league MVP. We got to throw this brother up in the conversation.
I agree with that.
Jaden Daniels is balling. And if he shows up against the Baltimore Ravens this weekend, because you know Baltimore and Washington and how hyped that crowd is going to be for that matchup. He shows up on the road and balls out, he has officially put the league on notice.
For sure.
He's coming, and we can't ignore that.
And make it clear, like, this kid understands the history within this area. He came to Ashburn and said, I want kids to look at me, in not just Commanders fans, to look at me the way that one day, like the way they used to look at Doug Williams, but also in the DMV, like the way they look at Lamar. Like, he's trying to put the Commanders on the map to make it hard for fans in the DMV to just say, oh yeah, we're Ravens fans.
Good point.
That's he understands the stage and what's at stake.
I love him here. What do you think?
Massive statement game for not only he but for he and the Commanders.
I want to piggyback off of what Kimberly said because it's very, very important. It's not just him wanting the Commanders to get love in the DMV and everybody not rely on the Ravens. It's about him wanting that love and not all of it going to Lamar Jackson. He's taking it personal.
All right, Bobby. So a few statements that they're right that the Commanders could make with a win. Number one, it could be our rookie quarterback is not just the front runner for Rookie of the Year. Our quarterback could be front runner for MVP. If you come in to Baltimore and outplay Lamar, if that were to happen, that's the statement he would make. Right now, Jaden Daniels, according to FanDuel, already has the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th best MVP odds as a rookie quarterback. It's not bad. We'll give him his due. Okay. They could also come out here and say, hey, we want attention too. Now, we know that NBC tried to get this game. They tried to flex it, and CBS denied them. And so CBS is trying to give them their premium.
NBC. Yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah, right. CBS denied NBC. Excuse me. Sorry.
Correct. So CBS, with their 1 o'clock window, is trying to give them the premium treatment. Okay, what's in red is where this will be shown. Now, my family in Utah and in Arizona, by the way, aren't too happy about that. Yeah. They would like to see more of these games, but they got Jim Nantz, they got Tony Romo. That's their number one team. So the Commanders can say, hey, y'all have been beating us up like we're the little brother for a decade plus. And so their statement could be, we have a rivalry back on. Baltimore, Washington. We're as close as two franchises can be, geographically speaking. And so we want to make the statement that we're not your little brother anymore. This is a rivalry. And then, as Stephen A. Smith said, it's like, who's going to get more attention here? And it's just so classic because as soon as you like build somebody else up and they become solidified as great, which is what Lamar has, suddenly all the people that have been building you up turn on you. And they now want to see your downfall and have the new underdog come up and take you out. That's just the way it is. So that for sure is the statements that they can make. But Bobby, let me reverse this because I pointed out this morning on Twitter that the Commanders 4 wins. They're 4-1. The Ravens are 3-2. And yet the Ravens are about a touchdown favorites. Why is that? Why does Las Vegas still put the Ravens, who have a worse record, give them almost a full touchdown lead as a favorite? And I think this has something to do with it. The Commanders' 4 wins have come against teams with a combined record of 6-14. Obviously, 4 of those losses come at the Commanders themselves. But Giants 2-3. Nobody's afraid of the Giants. Bengals 1-4. Ravens just faced them also, so that's kind of a wash there. Cardinals 2-3. Is anybody afraid of the Cardinals? And the Browns, who are the laughingstock this year, because yet again they went all in on Deshaun Watson, and he's doing nothing for them. The one game that the Commanders lost was against their only winning opponent, which was the Tampa Bay Bucks. So I'm putting this up here not to say overlook the Commanders, but I'm putting it up here because I put the record there because there's a reason why people are saying this is a potential statement game. It wasn't a statement game for Bengals or Cardinals or Browns. Nobody's making a statement against the Browns. But there's a reason why they're saying it's a statement game. So from the Ravens' point of view, I'm not putting this out there to say the Ravens should overlook them. Heavens, no. Why would you overlook the guy who's looking like the rookie of the year and as a rookie is in the top 5 of MVP odds? Nobody's overlooking him. But the point is the Ravens can use that as motivation. And we said what the statements the Commanders can make if they win. The statements that the Ravens can make if they win is, hey, your 1-4, your 4-1 start was cute. It was cute. But this is the heavyweights now. And you have a huge opportunity, and we're just going to slam that opportunity, that door of opportunity shut. That's what the Ravens' motivation will be. This has been fun. You've had your moment. You did it against, teams that are 6-14, but this is a different level. And the Ravens can say, we're the heavyweights. Lamar is the reigning MVP. And Jaden Daniels, you're off to a fantastic start, but you keep your rookie of the year because I'm the reigning MVP. So there's statements that can be made on both sides. And that's why I put out that record this morning. It's not to overlook them. It's to say, hey, don't use us to make your statement to the league. We'll go ahead and make our own statements if we can win this game.
Today's live stream is brought to you by our friends at Manta Sleep, and we're about to take a look at this Commander's perspective with my guy, Grant Paulsen. But today's live stream, like I mentioned, is brought to you by our friends at Manta Sleep, and that is the official sleep mask partner of us here inside the vault. You're looking at the Manta Sleep Mask Pro right now up on the screen. We both got these at our respective households. It gives you true 100% blackout for a deeper sleep. You've got C-shaped eye cups for unbeatable side sleep comfort. Advanced materials built in with ventilation for unmatched breathability. MantaSleep.com is where you can find more. If you find something you like at checkout, use our discount code VAULT10. That is VAULT10. And you'll get 10% off your next purchase. Thanks to Manta for all the support and the continued belief in what we're building here inside the channel. All right. 106.7 The Fan's finest. Buddy of mine from my days in D.C. We hung out in Vegas on Radio Row not all that long ago. MLB Network Radio. Grant, you do a little bit of everything. Let's bring him in. Grant Paulsen, 106.7 The Fan, DC's guy. The last time you were this excited about your team, I'd have to think. And by the way, this is Sarah. Sarah meet Grant. Grant meets Sarah. But the last time you were this juiced about this team was when?
Well, it's been a long time. I mean, in a fleeting capacity, I would say the end of the 2012 season, they ripped off 7 straight wins. Robert Griffin at quarterback as a rookie number 2 overall pick who had just won the Heisman, which should sound pretty similar to the Jaden Daniels situation right now. They started 3-6 that year, and they had to win those 7 in a row to get into the playoffs. And the 7th win was at home against the hated Cowboys at a pretty raucous building at that time at then FedEx Field. And the vibes around that game were the last time I think people had the same emotions and energy going into this week with a chance to get 5-1 against Baltimore.
Grant, nice to meet you. Thank you for joining us. Much appreciated.
You as well.
Can you give us a feeling of how DC is just reacting right now to Jaden Daniels and what the life that he has injected into that football fan base and what he means to this franchise only 5 weeks into the season?
Yeah, it's just a group of people that were ravenous for something to cling on to, a product that they could believe in. I mean, you're talking about, and this is not an exaggeration, you're talking about, basically 30 years at this point of ineptitude, going back to the last Super Bowl in 1991. And a lot of people have checked out. I mean, I won't go through the whole history of the fan base here for you guys, but this is larger than Daniels. I'll end with Daniels in a minute, but Dan Snyder sold the team a little over a year and a half ago now, And this is the first true season of this new ownership group really sinking their hands into this thing. That cannot be underscored in this. There were so many people that quit on this organization because they didn't want to support Dan Snyder and hated his guts. They wouldn't go to games. They wouldn't buy gear. They wouldn't spend a penny on the team. So now you've got a new ownership group. You know, in my lifetime, they've never had a real general manager since Snyder took over. For the first time ever this year, they went and got one of the most sought-after talent evaluators in the National Football League, in Adam Peters, who was the assistant GM in San Francisco. He's running a front office that is one of the best built in the league now, with Lance Newmark, who came over from the Lions, one of the best teams in the conference. Brandon Sosno came over from a couple of organizations where he's been really, really helpful. So, you know, ownership, check. Front office, check. They get a new head coach that people believe in right now with a real message and a culture that he's building in Dan Quinn. Check. And then the fourth most important, you know, probably the most important filler, but of the four that hold up an organization is quarterback. And Jaden Daniels is doing things we've never seen done before. So he is the face of this operation. He's certainly the guy that kind of is the engine that makes this whole thing hum. But this is larger than that. This is a fan base that has been dormant coming to life because a lot of the things that they've wanted for a long time are all happening in unison.
Grant, the secondary in Baltimore has been talked about a lot. And when you look at the numbers, you got a 32-year-old defensive coordinator in Zach Orr, who I'm sure you've been sinking your teeth into this week. And this is a 31st ranked pass defense, which is shocking because they're the first ranked rushing defense. So all of a sudden you're like, all right, well, Jaden hasn't had this rookie moment yet. I thought that it might come against Cleveland just because of Greg Schwartz and the challenges that he presents as a defensive coordinator. But the Browns are all in. We all know where the Browns are at this point. Maybe they'll turn it around, but barring something unforeseen, how do you make of Jaden stacking up against Baltimore's defense, and just how surgical has he proven to be in the pocket as a refined passer?
So a couple of things. I mean, so far it really has not mattered who they've played defensively. Their offense has been clinical. I mean, it has been a well-oiled machine. They present a lot of problems, Bobby and Sarah. I mean, this has been wild to watch. First of all, not unlike the Ravens and Lamar, that's one of the few comps I'll make between the two, but they have a cheat code on 3rd and short and 4th and short. And you guys have experienced this in Baltimore for many years. I've watched it forever from afar on TV, but you know, they are 8 for 8 on 4th down right now. And they are one of the best teams in the league. As you can see there on 3rd down at 52%, they're number 1. They've had early down success on 1st and 2nd by way of running it mostly. And then they're in 3rd and medium or less, and they are great at staying on the field, moving the chains, and moving the football. So specific to this matchup, I know that the Ravens, who can stop the run, are going to make life harder on them, and that's going to be the whole key. If they can get Daniels into obvious passing downs where you know he's throwing it, I think Washington can probably be had. Now, he's done a good job from the pocket. His strength is getting out of the pocket. He's thrown on the run beautifully. He's extended and created plays. I think we haven't really seen anybody successfully do this, but my guess is if you can keep him flat-footed in the pocket, reading, surveying, making throws, that will be the best plan for a defense. It's something Bill Belichick's been talking about this week as to how to stop Daniels. It's just no one's been able to do it. I mean, if you spy him, you know, oftentimes you're missing out. You know, there's another hole to plug somewhere else, right? So they've had an answer for everything. Cliff Kingsbury deserves a lot of credit for that. But Daniels himself has just been extremely poised, really prepared, and he just hasn't been fooled very often. I think that's what I give him a lot of credit for.
Grant, you mentioned how important that the run game is and the Ravens being able to stop the run. That kind of brings me to the injury report as of yesterday. I'm sure we'll get another one, I don't know, in a couple hours here. It's Brian Robinson's a guy to look at. If he can't go, how will that impact this game? And then is there anybody else on this list that you're the commander should be concerned about?
Yeah, so I think in that limited category you're looking at, the left guard, Nick Allegretti's been fantastic. This O-line's been tremendous. It's kind of rebuilt. They have, believe it or not, a timeshare, like a 50-50 timeshare at left tackle by design, which is really weird, but it's actually worked really well.
They do that in Baltimore.
That sounds familiar, Grant.
It is weird, but I guess these two teams are the ones to do it.
No one should want to do that, but they have made it work. Brandon Coleman, their third-round pick out of TCU, is going to take over that job more and more as the year goes on, but they're kind of easing him in. And Cornelius Lucas is the veteran swing tackle who's splitting with him. But they've been good there. Allegretti's the left guard who's been fantastic. First year in Washington, started in the Super Bowl for the Chiefs last year, but was mostly a backup on that offense. At center, they signed Tyler Biadasz for $10 million. He's been tremendous, has allowed one pressure so far this season on about 185 dropbacks. Right guard Sam Cosmi will make a Pro Bowl this year, probably for the first time. And then their right tackles, their most susceptible matchup to be had probably in Andrew Wiley, who gave up 9 sacks each of the last couple of years, but has been playing much better as they get the ball out really quickly, a lot of short, safe throws. But I guess directly to your question here, if Robinson doesn't go, Austin Eckler is their running back who is not washed. I mean, people thought he was. He looked shot out of a cannon when he touches the ball. They do put him on a pretty strict pitch count. Even last week, Robinson did not play in the second half of the game. Supposedly didn't re-aggravate his knee. They were just resting him, but kind of makes you wonder with him not able to practice these last couple of days. And for what it's worth, when the media was able to see practice today, he was not practicing. We'll see what they say on the injury report. But that having been said, I still think Eckler stays on a pitch count. And their other back is Jeremy McNichols, who's a journeyman who's played on 12 different teams at different points. He has been great the last couple of weeks, believe it or not, which just speaks to this offense humming no matter who's in it. 3 touchdowns the last couple of games and averaging like 7-some yards per carry. Has ripped off a couple nice runs. But those guys are redundant. Like they're similar. They're more of the speed, twitchy, smaller scat back type. So it would be a big loss if they don't have Robinson against Baltimore because he is your sledgehammer and your battering ram that kind of wears a big physical defense down. So that's something to monitor. If he can't go, I think it does change the algorithm a little bit for them and makes life a lot more difficult.
Looks like just a short while ago, Dan Quinn said that Robinson's going to be a game time decision coming up on Sunday at 1 o'clock. So we'll have to follow that into the weekend. But Grant, these two have been a bona fide problem. It's Lamar and Derek in the backfield. It's the number one rushing offense. Todd Monken is already, based on some ESPN reports, garnering some discussions for head coaching vacancies, being that there already has been one. We all saw what happened this past week in New York with Robert Saleh. But what's Joe Witt and the defensive staff saying about trying to contain these two together?
So to me, this is the whole story of the week, and it's no different for you guys, right? I mean, it's almost like the Spider-Man meme game in a lot of ways, I think, just pointing at each other. But how does this susceptible defense figure out a way to stop this elite rushing offense? Which sound familiar in Baltimore, I guess. Although at least the Ravens have done a good job against the run. Washington, not so much. I think you got to pick your poison a little bit here. Like, I get it. Derrick Henry's averaging 6 a pop, and he's right up at the top of the rushing categories in the NFL. But he doesn't snatch your soul as often or as easily as Lamar might, right? So I still think they've got to do everything they can to make sure that Jackson doesn't beat them first and live by some death by paper cut. I think their plan, frankly, is going to be to try to have the Ravens, you take away the deep stuff and you try to play that bare front, maybe add a defensive lineman, go 5 up front, and try not to let them, run the ball as well as they have all season. And you let Lamar beat you from the pocket, throwing the football in the intermediate area of the field. What I would philosophically preach all week is make 3 or 4 plays for me. That's what I'm asking you to do. You're not going to shut the Ravens down. You're not going to stop the run all game long. But can you generate a couple of takeaways? Can you get Lamar where he's running around in the pocket being wild, and the ball comes out once on a sack fumble, somebody hits him in the hand? Can you get a tipped pass that goes off Isaiah Likely's hand and into Quan Martin, the safety's hands? Can you get me a couple takeaways? Can you get me 3 game-changing plays out of 60? And I think with Washington's offense, they'll take their chances. I think that's kind of the mindset, this ball is life, like takeaways mindset. Which has not been an area where they've thrived necessarily this year, but they're not built to stop the Ravens. I mean, I can just tell you that right now, like where they have really, they're terrible against the pass, and theoretically we thought they'd be good against the run, but they've had a couple of decent games in a row. I'll give them credit, but this past week, I don't know that it counts. Deshaun Watson. Have you guys seen Cleveland yet, by the way?
No. We haven't played him yet, but we're always watching
directly.
from afar.
Everybody's seen him, but we haven't seen him directly yet.
He is broken. Like, it is a gross watch. I mean, That is one of those games where you like everyone gets a sack, Oprah Winfrey style. You get a pressure. It's gross. So anyway, I think they're not built to stop Baltimore, and they need to try to make a few plays, takeaways, and those will outdo a lot of the times where Baltimore drives the field.
Yeah, totally agree with you. I think you just said it with the Lamar and Henry kind of matchup. Is there a second matchup? Because that one's the obvious one that everybody's looking at. Is there like a low-key matchup that you'll be watching beyond that?
Yeah, definitely. I am petrified by quality receivers against Washington's secondary.
Mm.
So assuming Zay Flowers is fully operational and armed and ready to go at 100%, like that's a receiver that could give them some fits. I think they've got a really serviceable physical corner in Benjamin St-Juste that does a nice job on bigger kind of physical wide receivers. He's always in position. He's gotten beaten for some touchdowns this year by Hall of Famer Mike Evans and some other guys, but he's like always right there. Where they have struggled is twitchier, speedier, craftier receivers, like some of those smaller guys. And I don't know that they really have anyone on the roster right now that does a really good job with that kind of player. So I could certainly see that as a problem. The other thing I would say is, obviously the Ravens are what is the pro version of tight end U at this point. That's as good a tight end room as there is. I'm not sure the Commanders' strength is going to be defending tight ends. Like you look back over the course of the season and it has not been a huge bugaboo, but with Cleveland, Cincinnati, when they played the Cardinals, their tight end who was so good was out. They haven't necessarily had to deal with really good tight ends yet. I don't think, right now that their linebackers, Wagner and Luvu, have been coming downhill. They combined for 4 sacks last week, had the 2 highest pass rushing grades in the league for anybody. Like it just doesn't seem like, even though they're nickel and dime a whole lot, that they're necessarily in a great place if you go 12 personnel and send tight ends down the seam to make that work all game long either.
As much as I like the fact that everybody's paying attention to this game for the first time in a long time, those who are calling it a rivalry, based on the sample size of regular season games being 7, I can't get on that train. I don't think I'll ever be on that train. I'm happy that NBC wanted to friggin' flex this right to prime time, and CBS was like, yeah, right. We're taking our A-team crew to Baltimore. This is what everybody's going to be watching, and a good chunk of the country, as we covered earlier on in the stream, will be watching as well. Grant, over the years of just being in this area, the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, can you remember the last time that these two teams played? I mean, there hasn't really been this type of meaningful game played between the two.
No, not even a little bit. I mean, 2016, Washington was off to a pretty good start. They got a punt return, if I remember, from Jamison Crowder being at that game to win that game 16-10. It was quirky because might have been Mosley picked off a pass and was like diving into the end zone and lost it for a touchback. And Washington got the ball back with better field position after he intercepted a pass. I think I'm remembering that right in Baltimore that day. So that was kind of a fluky 16-10 win for the Commanders. But I say all that to say I'm team Bobby on this. We argued about this on the show, and like people were mad at me, like calling me names in the chat, and they're allowed to. It's not a rivalry if you play a team once every 4 years. Now, that does not mean that it's not in some way a fun fan rivalry. Like it's right. Washington and Baltimore, and there's animus, between the markets, and those Washington and Baltimore don't like each other. I think the Orioles and the Nats is a great rivalry because you got people like me stuck in the middle who grew up an Orioles fan that now love the Nats and still root for the O's. My wife's a diehard O's fan. Peter Angelos did everything he could to not allow DC to have a baseball team, and he can kick rocks. I guess I shouldn't speak ill of him posthumously, but like the DC Baltimore thing, as a diehard Birds fan my whole life, who is a DC guy, now into the Nats, that's real, and like that doesn't go away for football. Yeah. So there is some fan tension and rivalry, if you want to call it that. But are the Ravens and the Commanders rivals? I'm sorry, the Olympics are played as often as these two teams play. I cannot say yes to that.
Period. End of sentence.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then let's end with this thing, Grant. Unless Bobby, for me, Bobby, will this Sunday? What's your prediction? Will the Commanders be able to make this more of a rivalry in the 1 in 4 years they meet? Do you have a game score? What's your prediction of how this all unfolds?
Yeah, I think I'm going to roll with 30-24 Baltimore. I think the Ravens win. I think they are, first of all, the fact that they won their game this past weekend, I think maybe makes me feel a little bit more like Washington has a choice. Had the Bengals have kicked that game-winning field goal and the Ravens are, I don't want to say playing for their season, but a little more desperate at that point, that would have made me feel even worse. I think they're in an okay spot, but they're obviously very hungry. It's not like they've got a whole lot of wiggle room based on their start to the year. So I'm going to say that Washington hangs, that it's a good football game, that they acquit themselves well. And we come out of this game in DC saying, look, it's 4-2, but you played one of the big dogs. You leveled up in a weight class and you proved that you're pretty good. Some people are knocking who Washington's played and the teams that they've beaten. The thing about that, I'd say, is they're dominating. They didn't beat the Cardinals, they bludgeoned them. They didn't beat the Browns. They literally took all their starters out after 3 quarters. So it's not like they won by field goals against these crap teams. Like, they're destroying them, which has not happened here in years and years and years. So this is going to be fun. I got Baltimore. I would take Washington in points, though. If it's still 6.5, 7 in books, like, that's too big for me. This offense is too good. They get a backdoor cover. I like the Commanders to cover, but I think the Ravens do win. And I think both teams come out of this kind of feeling better about themselves in a weird way.
You can be found on X or Twitter at Grant Paulsen, or there's an H in there, isn't there? Yeah, at Grant.
Yeah, there was
H.
this one dude, Bobby, who got on Twitter on the first ever day, and he tweeted one time about watching Glenn Beck, and then he never tweeted again. Not one time. But his name was Grant Paulsen, so I had to use my H there.
That's classic.
Yeah.
At Grant H. Paulsen. All right, there you have it. I've known you for a long time, my friend. I know you're looking forward to this one, and thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, I'm coming up that way, so hopefully I'll get to bump into you guys. Yeah, I'll be there on Sunday.
Any coverage going on this weekend for those that want to tune into the DC perspective?
Yeah, I mean, we're rocking and rolling DC on the Fan, myself, Danny Rouillet, 2 to 6:30 every day, but we'll be, on all of our pregame broadcasts. It is funny, for you guys, it's old hat. It's just kind of a week 6 game. For us, this is like a regular season Super Bowl. Like, people are really jacked up right now, and they deserve it, man. It's been a really long time.
Yeah, I'm expecting the Commanders fan base, you yourself included, to travel well. I mean, it's too easy, but this is a hot ticket. My brother's coming down for New York for it.
Dude,
he's
the
like,
prices are crazy.
Oh, the dude's like, hey, you got any ticket plugs? I'm like, go hop on the app and see what it is. You can't even get in for less than $250. So
yeah,
just speaks to just how much people appreciate this one. So, Grant, appreciate you, brother. Enjoy it, and I'll hit you up with the tailgate information if you have a few minutes before the game, because I'll be doing my pregame stream right around the stadium. So, catch up with you.
That'd be awesome. No, I appreciate you.
Sounds good. Talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, Grant.
Grant Paulsen, 106.7 The Fan. You can find him on Twitter at Grant H. Paulsen, and it's clear, right? Needless to say, these guys are juiced up down south of us, and why wouldn't you be? They are relevant. And they're going to try and, like you said, Sarah, before we had Grant on, they're going to try and make their own statement. There's a lot of statements that could be made this upcoming weekend. Where to in terms of pivot?
Well, do we want to do our just kind of we'll do a pull out. Do we want to do our predictions right now before we move on?
Sure. And we'll get Daryl in as well, because he dropped a $10 super chat donation for us. And Daryl writes, how many up and coming QBs have we endured through the Lamar era that were, quote, supposed to be better than Lamar, only for time to play out and they come back down to earth? Kyler, Justin Fields, Jalen Hurts. Well, we'll see. Jury's still out on a few of those guys. But yes, 2 of the 3, I would say, have come back down to earth. I know Jalen is struggling with Philadelphia, but he has played for a Super Bowl, and he has been paid very handsomely. Well, 2 of the 3 have been paid handsomely, Kyler and Jalen. So thanks,
it is
Daryl.
funny because this has been the year of the resurgent, or I guess the last 2 years has been like resurgent quarterbacks like Joe Flacco, Mayfield, Darnold, like all these guys suddenly, Geno Smith, last year? Just guys have resurged. So
by the way,
real quick, go ahead.
Just along those lines, you mentioned Geno, and I caught a little bit of Thursday Night Football last night. A lot of people are after Mike Mack right now in Seattle territory because they started 3-0, and now they've since gone 0-3, and they lost last night to San Francisco. Geno threw a couple picks. Mike Mack never wavers, though. A couple of his sideline reports, like, the dude's just the same exact guy that we remember him as a head coach. Just very even keel, very level-headed, very mild-mannered. So we'll see if Seattle can. You need a quarterback, and as great of a story as Geno has been, it's just he's not the guy. They're in a
Leveled off
period
the
of
game.
transition,
Yeah.
but they had to pay him after last year because he was above
Well,
average.
the point is though, is like he was written off, and then he came
Yes.
back and was able to get a second. He's a starter again, and he's able to get a contract and all that kind of stuff. Not saying that he's like a top 10 guy or anything like that, but
And as he coined, they wrote him off, but I didn't write back. That was his.
that's right.
Classic,
That was a good line.
Yeah.
That was a good line. So, real quick, because we had to cut things off short as we were finishing up the last segment before Grant came on, but it's still on topic of like what's going to happen with this game. So I wanted to play this prediction from Craig Corden, what he thinks is going to happen. Then I figured we could give our predictions.
I think Washington was going to be any good. Recycled new coach, new quarterback, not a lot of talent in the cupboard, and wow, playing really well. But Baltimore is a little different than the teams they've played against, with all due respect. There's a reason they're essentially a touchdown favorite against a 4-1 football team sitting in first place. And I think this weekend, this is not a knock, because the kid's easily the rookie of the year right now.
Yes.
That may change, obviously, over the course of the rest of the season. But in the moment, he's leading for rookie of the year. I think Baltimore is going to teach him a lesson. I think Baltimore is going to dominate Washington. And as great as this offense has been, and it has been ridiculously great, I think this is kind of like a comeback to earth week for Washington. It's not going to change how I feel about the kid. It's not going to change whether or not he wins the Rookie of the Year. But you're going up against a team that has been there before, a team that has now figured out exactly who they are. And that means Jaden could still play great, but that defense is in a lot of trouble against this Ravens offense.
Bobby, listen, I've been as excited for this game as anybody else. I'm going to have my popcorn ready. But at this point, I think it's being overplayed. And I think that what I said off the top, where, yes, if they were to come into Baltimore and beat Baltimore, and if Jaden Daniels were able to outplay Lamar Jackson, then sure, throw him into that MVP front-runner discussion. Let's start considering them heavyweights. But that is not my prediction. My prediction is right there with Grant and right there with Corden. I think Lamar is going to make a statement on Jaden himself, and he says, look, I respect you. You could probably go on and have a great career, but there's only been 3 people that have had the league MVP since I've been in this league, and that's me, Patrick Mahomes, and Aaron Rodgers, and we're not about to let a rookie get into our club. I think Lamar will make that statement about Jaden. I think the Ravens are going to say, hey, we respect you. We respect your 4-1 start. And that's why we need to bring you back down to earth. And we're going to slam the door shut. You are not going to use us to make a statement to the league. The Bengals let you use them for that. That's the other AFC North team, though. We are not going to let you do that. I think that the Ravens defense, especially the secondary, while I don't have complete confidence in them yet, I think that they are going to be doing what they did with the Bills, which is that they needed to come back and erase the bitter taste that they had in their mouth from the week before, and then got things together against Josh Allen. So I think they're ticked. I think the Ravens secondary is very ticked. It sounds like Marlon Humphrey is trending towards playing, so I think that's a good thing. So there, and as Grant said, I just don't think the Redskins defense is built to stop Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, these 3 tight ends, and Zay Flowers, and whoever else you want to add to the mix. So I see this being high scoring for the Ravens at 34. I think the Ravens defense has a little bit of a comeback game for themselves, though I think Jaden Daniels and their offense will get theirs. I have it 34-24.
Okay. Super close to what I have. That's funny. We never tell each other our predictions.
No, we don't.
It's hilarious. So Grant said a couple things that crack me up. They're not built to beat Baltimore, as you just referenced. And then petrified. He used the word petrified.
He did.
When it comes to speedy, shifty, twitchy wide receivers, which is what the Ravens have in Zay Flowers. I'm going 35-24 Ravens, and I want to show you guys 2 categories that we had up on the screen earlier that I think are going to be of relevance. Okay. The Ravens under Todd Monken are dominating in terms of red zone efficiency, red zone offense. They are second in the league with a touchdown percentage of 75. Look at where Washington is on that second level right here. Red zone defense, touchdown percentage. They're 29th, 68.8%. Okay, so something's got to give there, or nothing's got to give. That's just the reality of what these two teams are right now through 5 weeks. And then the obvious elephant in the room is that the Ravens have the top-ranked rushing offense. And look at where the Commanders are ranked right now. And I know it's a week-to-week league, but it's undeniable that this rushing offense is very, very hard to be stopped. And if you stop it, death by 1,000 paper cuts is what we watched play out last week. Throughout that game, not through all of it, because obviously it was a lot closer than it should have been had there not been so many defensive miscues. But it's a 22nd ranked league-wide rush defense for Washington. To me, those are two lopsided categories. I think the Ravens take advantage. I am giving Washington 24 points, as you are as well. So I think there will be these continued breakdowns, these continued lapses. Dean Pease will only have been in the building for a few days. He needs to obviously establish his presence, alleviate what's on Zach Orr's plate on a weekly basis. I say 35-24 in a game that I don't think it's ever going to feel close. That's where I'm going with this score. I think it's going to, it's an 11-point difference that I'm predicting, but I think the Ravens are just going to handily win this game. But we're going to see flashes of why Jaden is being talked about the way he is.
Question: did you change your prediction from 34 to 35 just to make it different from mine, or did you always have it at 35?
I said that this morning and on the roundtable, so I just wanted to keep it consistent.
Just wanted to see. Yep.
DC radio this morning, roundtable on Wednesday night. With the roundtable being Wednesday night so early in the week, I don't like predicting that early in the week.
Yeah, it's tough without knowing injuries and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I also want to be consistent because I know people follow from various platforms. So that's where we are. There's a ton of different predictions coming in the live chat. Let's get to one more super chat donation as well from Daniel. I have to say, if Lamar had the coordinator that Daniels has now as a rookie, he would be doing the same thing. And his rookie year, but we had Roman. Greg Roman was the offense. Well, actually, no, it was. Remind me who was Lamar.
It was starts with a W.
Gosh,
what?
He's on. He goes on the Fan from time to time. Gosh.
Jeez, this is going to drive me nuts.
Hold on a second. Help us out.
No, don't tell me. Marty Ball. Marty Shot. No.
Marty Morningweg.
Marty Morningweg. Jeez.
A Friday brain fart by both of us.
Hey, I had Marty. I got Marty.
Thanks to everybody in the live chat. They're flying in right now to take care of us. All right.
Just to the super chat's point, I think that's a fair point. I don't even think the Ravens were trying initially to develop Lamar as a passer, which is one of the reasons why they chose Greg Roman. Now, does that mean he'd be off of a hot start as a passer as Jaden Daniels? Maybe not, but I definitely think that like for years, remember it was Steve Young's on like yelling at the Ravens while he was on ESPN Countdown saying Lamar's not a good passer. Well, you're not giving him a chance to be a good passer. So I agree. I basically agree with what the super chat is saying right there.
I'll tell you what, too, Terry McLaurin. He certainly didn't have Terry McLaurin at his disposal the way Jaden does. Luke McCaffrey, they went and got him in the draft. He's proven to be somebody that can be a playmaker. Zach Ertz is one of the more proven tight ends who's a veteran. So not only is he surrounded around skill, but he's also got, to Daniel's point, Cliff Kingsbury with former head coaching experience and more playmaking than Lamar had. So again, not downplaying what Jaden's doing. Just talking a few supplemental pieces of information there.
Yeah.
What else?
All right. Well, I don't know.
We are up against the clock, and I have a jam day, but let's as much as we can get in here.
Okay. Well, first of all, I'll just say this from the pressers yesterday. There wasn't a whole lot that went on. However, Zach Orr was asked about hiring Dean Pease. He really didn't get too deep into it, didn't say exactly what his role would be, this and that, but basically saying he's a great football mind and, he just wants him there as an advisor. So fair enough. He said he doesn't know whether Pease will be in the coach's box on Sunday. but did indicate that Pease will have a role on game day. He just wasn't going to divulge that. So there's that. Todd
And on top of
Monken.
that, Sarah,
yeah, go ahead.
and I'll just let you speak over this, not to cut you off here. Fox 45 just caught some footage of those two hanging out on Wednesday together, Dean and Zach. Obviously former player-coach relationship, now going to be sort of collaborating in this effort.
On the other side, Todd Monken didn't produce any news per se, but he's just low-key funny, Bobby. His press conferences are low-key funny. And as somebody that watches all the press conferences to make sure that we're up to date on everything, I just find myself chuckling all the time. First of all, he arrived again. There were pictures shot of him when he was waiting to come up to podium. He's sitting on the bench. He has the play call sheet in his pants again. Like, he just lives, breathes, and eats football. I put together a compilation of some of his funny parts of the press conference. I won't play all of it, but let me give you a little taste where he's not even trying to be funny, but he's low-key funny.
For you as an offensive coordinator to see the ball spread around as much as it was on Sunday?
Not as happy as they were. I really don't care. I mean, I love that our guys touch the ball. I mean, what really matters is that we score points.
We've gotten pretty much everyone else's reaction on the Lamar touchdown after the stiff arm. As you're watching that, what is kind of your immediate reaction in the press box?
Well, first it was, oh, shit. Like, all right, that's the first reaction, because I thought initially we were going to have a touch. I said, hey, we're going to get a touchdown here, and then didn't realize it was going to take another 15 seconds for that to develop. But I mean, what do you say? What a tremendous play, by an outstanding football player.
How many stiff arms did you draw up on that one?
I didn't draw up. Probably more impressive.
I didn't drop me. Let me just move to this last part. I don't know why I thought this was so funny. He's basically answering a question about why they're so good in the red zone. He's like, well, it's because of players and the coaches I have. Of course, he's not going to take credit, but this was funny how he stumbled over his words.
Game planning and developing,
Here's the best part about Todd. That way right there that he comes across.
Yeah.
The exact, to a T, the same way he is away from the camera.
Yeah.
He has such a dry humor. He's so self-deprecating. He's so honest. He's so open and direct. I love it. I absolutely love the guy.
Yeah. I didn't. And then like the stiff. How many of those stiff arms did you drop? I didn't drop. Crap. Just hilarious.
Yeah. He's hysterical.
So,
by the way,
go ahead.
Finish that thought because I was just going to transition to the injury report real quick.
Yeah. No, go ahead. You can go there.
Just because some people were maybe not listening off the top of the show. So this was yesterday's. It's a mountain of an injury report. But as beat reporters are sharing within the last hour since practice is currently underway, Broderick Washington, Malik Harrison, and Arthur Maulet were the only ones who were sidelined today.
Mm-hmm.
So that means this entire list, Marlon, Rashad, Ronnie, Voorhees, Kohler, right? All these guys that either missed or were limited the first couple days are all trending towards playing. So again, Broderick Washington with a knee, Malik Harrison with a groin, and Arthur Maulet, who had that soft tissue setback last week. Those are your only three that beat reporters are sharing were not involved in today's practice.
Well, one takeaway from this is that John Harbaugh told the truth. He said most of the injuries were just typical game after stuff. He said the boot for Marlon Humphrey was a bit precautionary and playing it safe. Said that, Bateman, was just routine kind of banged up kind of stuff. So the one thing I will say though, for Andrew Voorhees, because now he's been there full, again, reports are saying that he was there today. So I assume it's full again. So you have a healthy Andrew Voorhees. What do they do at guard? John Harbaugh was asked early in the week, are you going to bring him back in when he's healthy? Because McCary played really well. Bobby, McCary, again, in that quarterback school with JT O'Sullivan, he pulled in the clip where Lamar's running a bash GT and Ronnie Stanley pulled to the right and then Lamar kind of pushed him to make him go faster.
Yep.
Well, on that play, McCary also pulled, and his blocking was phenomenal. How he got around and was able to seal one of the defensive linemen, like it was just like how a big man moves like that and was able to do that. So I'm very, very curious what they're going to do at left guard with Andrew Voorhees appearing to be fully healthy.
Same thing with me. Good problems to have, though, with the amount of steps that guys apparently took ahead. Let's get to a couple super chats here. D-Rad Sykes says, or Drad, J-A-D, Drad, D-R, oh, Dr. Ad Sykes? Dr. Ad? There's like 4 different renditions you could do here, but we appreciate you, Doc. I love you guys. Keep it up. 100-0 Baltimore coming up this weekend. Ocean says, if we get 200-plus rushing, we win this easily. Diesel Doctor says, I'm saving receipts. My analysis will be fair. If they outplay us, then I'll show those receipts as well. Ravens are the better team, though, as Sarah said. We have played ballers already. Them, not so much. Habitual line steppers. Some of these mainstream pundits are funny. Try to compare these modern-day rookies or super ringers to Lamar when he played 3 years of college football. Appreciate you guys for the super chat donations. Let's get our patrons in here. We got a little bit more. We got a few more pieces of content for you, but just while we're going here, Joe Bonzel and Jason Barrett, thank you both for believing in what we're building. We appreciate the support that you give us. Thank you for being a part of the Vault Patreon community. And if you guys want to join as well this football season, you can do so by clicking on the link that we have included in the show notes below. That's patreon.com/RavensVault podcast. And you can join and support the show for as little as $1.99.
So, Bobby, I wanted to run through this really quick because I think it just is always good to kind of like stick your head up from, where you're looking that's so narrow, and maybe kind of stick your head up and look around the league a little bit so you can see what other fan bases are also going through. So on the AFC North whip around today from The Athletic, it is a Friday routine read for me. One of the questions that was asked to each beat writer from The Athletic that covers their team is they asked them to gauge the temperature of their head coaches. And I won't read everything for each head coach, and I'll leave the Ravens for last because I know that's what we want to hear. But again, it's just nice to know what other fan bases are going through. So when asked about Zach Taylor, head coach of the Bengals, their beat writer says, remember where President Biden's approval numbers were when he dropped out of the race? That's about where Zach Taylor is residing after Sunday's overtime loss. So they are ticked off about the conservative overtime play calling. If his approval numbers are as low as that, we'll see how long he survives. Okay. They were asked for Kevin Stefanski. Athletic says, well, reigning NFL Coach of the Year, Kevin Stefanski, just got a big contract extension, and there's a strong chance that he's not going anywhere anytime soon. But these are the Browns. Under the same ownership since 2012, and almost always a circus for 25 years now. The Deshaun Watson experiment is a complete disaster and will cost people jobs sooner or later. Stefanski probably isn't going to lose his now in 3 months or even in 3 years, but changes are coming unless a major change in the results and the offensive operation comes soon. So stay tuned. Okay. Here we are with Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin works for an organization that prides itself on stability, same as in Baltimore. If there were any questions about the temperature of his seat, he just inked a contract extension that runs through 2027. Truthfully, there may not be any employee in America with more job security. However, Tomlin's public approval rating is an entirely different, more polarizing conversation. Any coach who brings the Lombardi Trophy to Pittsburgh will always be held in high regard. There certainly are some in Pittsburgh who celebrate that Tomlin has never had a losing season. However, the non-losing season streak recently has turned into a tongue-in-cheek jab, as a fan base used to competing in the playoffs hasn't enjoyed a postseason win since 2016. So he's basically saying some people are getting tired of him, but ownership very stable. Here's Jeff Zrebeck on John, and I will read all of this. Jeff says, I always try and remind myself that ex-responders and sports talk radio callers are typically the loud minority. But there has clearly been a shift the past few seasons with a small but growing portion of the Ravens fan base ready for the post-John Harbaugh era. It's been mostly inspired by a few of the team's playoff no-shows, like January's AFC Championship game, and the disturbing trend of late-game meltdowns. Each loss or even close win seems to bring a wave of fan questions about whether Harbaugh's on the hot seat. Here's the thing. The only person who can put Harbaugh on the hot seat is owner Steve Bisciotti, who has a close relationship with his highly successful head coach. Bisciotti puts a ton of value on maintaining a strong culture and fielding a team that's in the playoff mix every year and is ready to play every Sunday. Harbaugh gets high marks in all those areas. The Ravens have plenty of work to do over the next couple months, and it probably would take either this regular season going sideways or another underachieving postseason for there to be legitimate questions about Harbaugh's future in Baltimore. Bobby, I thought he nailed that. What say you?
I think that's super fair. There's really nothing else that needs to be said, right? I think that it gauges the temperature properly, fairly, speaks to the success, speaks to the relationship that he has with his owner. At least perceived, not just perception too. I mean, that's always sort of been known throughout these parts. And then again, it also addresses the elephant in the room, which has been the inconsistency when it matters in January.
Overall, it sounds like 3 of the 4 coaches are in good spots with their teams, minus Zach. But in a couple in 3 of them, there's starting to be growing calls. We'll just say that.
Sounds like it. It sounds like I'm not liking my prediction that all 4 are going to be 500 or better again. I'm not liking that at all. That prediction's going to be sunk if it's not already. So shall we stick a pin in it there?
Let me see here. Yeah, I guess you got to go. Are you sure you don't want a Charlie Kolar send off?
You teased it.
Come on.
Put it on. Son of a. Throw it on.
Put it on. Charlie Kolar, just when he went on the lounge, they put together a quick, fun compilation of stuff he does. This is a good note to end on. Funniness. Here we go. It's like 30 seconds. You got it, Bobby.
I'm a solidly smart guy. But what I've learned is that when you have that perception, you can say a lot of stupid things confidently. People will believe you.
This great season that you're starting here is the cornrows, right?
Yeah, I know, that's funny.
The berets.
I was stoked. I thought she did a great job.
She did.
She made me look pretty solid. And I was like, and then I saw Lamar the next day. So I was like, oh shoot, so this is gone. But it's all in good fun. I mean, I just wanted to see how it looks, and I want to shout out Miss Kia again. She did a great job.
The photo of you guys
that's
at
hilarious. Like, it's such a perfect encapsulation of people's reaction when this giant white guy walks up with cornrows. Yeah, I don't know. I don't take myself too seriously.
No kidding.
See, you needed that. You needed that to end your day here on the Vault.
That is how we ride it into the weekend right there. He certainly does not take himself too seriously. Any white dude who's 6'6", walking around with cornrows, from where he played his college ball, like in Iowa or somewhere, or where the heck was he? Iowa State. Hold on, let me get this real quick.
Now you're totally in on the Charlie Kolar topic here at the end of the show.
Where the heck was he? Iowa State. That's right, a 4th rounder.
Right.
2022, originally from Oklahoma, 6'6", 267. Yeah, he does not take himself too seriously at all. All right, people. We appreciate you for dropping by. We appreciate Grant Paulsen for popping on for his DC sports perspective. This is a big one. It's a big one for the Commanders, obviously a big one for the Ravens, a big one for the country. A lot of people are going to be watching this. I will be out at the Be More Around Town tailgate for pregame streaming. Sarah and I, of course, as always, we have the Vault, which is exclusively airs on so the post-game show will be exclusively on the Vault. Pre-game will be exclusively on the Bobby Baltimore channel from this point forward. So look forward to game day. Look forward to hopefully seeing a lot of you guys out there around the stadium on Sunday. And anything else from you, partner, before we jump?
No, sir. Good day inside the Vault. Can't wait till Sunday when we're back in here.
And what a week it was. Thank you guys for all the support that you give us, all the interest, all the viewership. Please like the video if you haven't already done so. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell on your way out. A lot of you ask, hey, I don't want to donate through Patreon or through the Super Chat feature. Okay, great way to do so is through Venmo at Ravens Vault Podcast if you are interested. So for Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off from this Friday Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. We'll catch up with you on Sunday. I will for pregame. Sarah and I, of course, will be back alongside each other coming up on Sunday, 4:30, 5-ish, typically for 1 o'clock games, assuming they don't go into overtime, knock on wood. And with that, thank you to Manta Sleep for sponsoring this episode. Have a fantastic weekend, guys, and we will catch up with you on Sunday.